The atmosphere of a live stream can change in an instant, and sometimes the moments that stay with people the longest are not the carefully prepared appearances, the glamorous outfits, or the perfectly planned conversations, but the completely unexpected stories that reveal someone's natural personality. That was exactly the kind of energy surrounding Tian Xiwei during a livestream that quickly became a memorable experience for viewers. What began as an ordinary online interaction gradually turned into something much more entertaining as Tian Xiwei opened up with a funny story, allowing fans to see a lighter and more spontaneous side of her personality. There was something wonderfully effortless about the moment, because she did not need an elaborate setup or a dramatic announcement to capture attention. Her expressions, timing, reactions, and playful way of telling the story were enough to create an atmosphere where viewers felt as though they were sitting nearby, listening to a friend recount an embarrassing or ridiculous experience that had somehow become even funnier with time. As the story unfolded, the mood became increasingly cheerful, and what made the moment especially memorable was the feeling that Tian Xiwei herself was genuinely enjoying the memory while sharing it. Rather than simply telling a funny story, she seemed to bring the entire situation back to life through her reactions, creating a chain of emotions that moved naturally from curiosity to surprise and then into laughter. There is a particular charm in watching a celebrity become completely relaxed during a livestream, because those moments can feel very different from the polished image people normally see on screen. Tian Xiwei has often attracted attention for her expressive personality and lively presence, but a spontaneous story can reveal something even more personal: the ability to laugh at ordinary situations and turn a simple memory into an entertaining experience. During this moment, the humor was not dependent on some enormous event or unbelievable twist. Instead, the appeal came from the way the story was delivered and the emotions surrounding it. Every little reaction seemed to make the situation more amusing, and viewers could almost imagine the scene as she described it. There was an innocent unpredictability to the conversation, as though even Tian Xiwei was discovering how funny the memory sounded while explaining it. That kind of spontaneity is difficult to manufacture, and perhaps that is why fans responded so warmly. The livestream became less about watching a celebrity and more about sharing a moment of genuine amusement with someone whose personality could make an ordinary story feel surprisingly entertaining. As viewers followed along, the comments and reactions began reflecting the same sense of delight, creating the feeling of a shared room filled with laughter even though everyone was separated by screens. What made the moment even more engaging was the possibility that Tian Xiwei did not initially realize just how funny her story would become. Sometimes the funniest stories are the ones that begin completely seriously, with the storyteller remembering the details and trying to explain what happened, only for the situation to become increasingly ridiculous as more information comes out. That emotional progression creates a special kind of suspense. Viewers start wondering where the story is going, and then one small detail changes everything. Tian Xiwei's expressive way of communicating made that progression even more vivid. A pause, a change in expression, an amused reaction, or the way she seemed to remember another detail could transform the atmosphere immediately. Instead of simply delivering a sequence of events, she created a small emotional journey, allowing viewers to experience the humor through her perspective. And because live streams are naturally unpredictable, there was always the possibility that her own reaction would become funnier than the original story. That is where the charm of the moment truly emerged. The humor was not distant or rehearsed. It felt immediate, warm, and human. Fans watching the livestream were naturally drawn into that energy, and the laughter became part of the experience. Online communities often move incredibly quickly when something unexpected happens, especially when a beloved celebrity displays a side of themselves that feels particularly natural. A funny expression can become a screenshot, a memorable reaction can turn into a favorite clip, and a simple story can become something fans continue discussing long after the livestream ends. Moments like this can spread because they are easy to connect with. People may not know the exact circumstances behind every detail, but they understand the emotion of remembering something embarrassing, unexpected, or simply absurd and then realizing that it is much funnier when told later. Tian Xiwei's ability to communicate that emotion gave the story an additional layer of warmth. Viewers were not only laughing at what happened, they were also enjoying the way she reacted to her own memory. There is something naturally contagious about someone laughing while telling a story, because the emotion travels beyond the words themselves. Even before the punchline arrives, the storyteller's expression can make everyone anticipate what is coming. The atmosphere surrounding the livestream also highlighted something important about Tian Xiwei's appeal. Entertainment often focuses on perfection, but audiences are increasingly drawn toward moments that feel imperfect in the most endearing way. A spontaneous laugh, a playful reaction, or an unexpected story can sometimes reveal more personality than a carefully arranged interview. Tian Xiwei's funny moment carried that sense of authenticity. She was not simply presenting a public image, she was allowing a more relaxed and playful side of herself to emerge. That difference can be powerful because fans are naturally curious about the person behind the performances, photographs, events, and promotional appearances. They want to understand what makes someone laugh, what kinds of memories they remember, and how they react when there is no dramatic scene to perform. A live stream can provide that rare window into everyday personality, and this particular story seemed to create exactly that kind of connection. As the story continued, the emotional rhythm became almost cinematic in its own unexpected way. There was the setup, the growing curiosity, the moment when viewers began realizing where the story was heading, and then the reaction that turned the entire situation into something unforgettable. The humor came from the contrast between how ordinary the situation might have seemed at the time and how hilarious it sounded once retold. That contrast is something everyone can understand. A moment that feels confusing or embarrassing when it happens can become one of the funniest memories years later. Tian Xiwei's storytelling allowed that transformation to happen in real time. Viewers could sense her remembering the situation, reliving the emotion, and then laughing at it from a completely different perspective. It was almost as though the livestream temporarily became a shared memory rather than a simple broadcast. There was also something deeply comforting about the way laughter changed the atmosphere. In the world of entertainment, where celebrities are constantly surrounded by schedules, cameras, expectations, and public attention, a moment of uncomplicated humor can feel refreshing. It reminds viewers that behind the glamorous appearances are people who experience awkward situations, misunderstandings, surprises, and ridiculous moments just like everyone else. Tian Xiwei's willingness to share something funny allowed fans to see that relatability without sacrificing the excitement of watching a public figure. In fact, it may have strengthened the connection. The more naturally she reacted, the easier it became for viewers to feel emotionally involved. They were not simply watching because they were curious about her latest appearance. They were watching because her personality itself had become the entertainment. And perhaps that is why the moment felt bigger than the story itself. The actual event being described may have been simple, but the emotional effect came from everything surrounding it. Her expressions created anticipation. Her laughter created warmth. Her storytelling created curiosity. The reactions of viewers created a sense of community. Together, those elements transformed a casual livestream conversation into a moment that could be remembered and replayed. Fans often cherish these seemingly small moments because they feel different from major public appearances. There is no giant stage, no elaborate performance, and no dramatic storyline required. There is simply a person sharing a memory and allowing people to laugh along with her. That simplicity can sometimes be more powerful than spectacle. The reaction from fans also reflected how quickly a joyful moment can bring an online community together. When someone people admire becomes genuinely amused, viewers often respond with their own laughter, playful comments, and affectionate reactions. The shared emotional experience becomes almost instantaneous. Someone watching from one room may laugh at the same moment as someone thousands of miles away, and for a few seconds, the distance between them seems to disappear. That is one of the fascinating qualities of live streaming. It creates an illusion of closeness without requiring physical proximity. Tian Xiwei's funny story became an example of that phenomenon, because the humor traveled through the screen with surprising ease. The more animated the moment became, the more viewers felt invited into it. There is also an emotional reason why funny memories can become so valuable to fans. Entertainment is not always about dramatic announcements or major developments. Sometimes people simply want a reason to smile. A lighthearted story from someone they enjoy watching can become a small bright spot in an ordinary day. Tian Xiwei's livestream moment offered exactly that kind of escape. For viewers who arrived simply expecting another livestream interaction, the unexpected humor could transform the entire experience. Instead of leaving with only information or a visual memory, they left with an emotion, amusement. And emotions are often what people remember most strongly. The beauty of the moment was also found in its unpredictability. Live streams contain an element of uncertainty that edited programs cannot completely reproduce. Anything can happen. A story can take an unexpected direction. A reaction can become the funniest part. A serious expression can suddenly turn into laughter. The audience is experiencing the moment as it happens, and that creates a special sense of immediacy. Tian Xiwei's story benefited from that atmosphere because viewers were not simply consuming a finished piece of entertainment. They were discovering the moment alongside her. Every reaction felt current, every laugh felt spontaneous, and every small detail contributed to the feeling that something unexpectedly memorable was unfolding. For fans familiar with Tian Xiwei's bright and expressive public presence, the livestream offered another reason to appreciate that personality. Her charm did not depend on creating a dramatic image. Instead, it emerged naturally through humor, timing, and emotional openness. A person who can make others laugh without forcing the moment has a particular kind of presence, because the entertainment comes from authenticity rather than effort. The funny story allowed that quality to shine. It was not about proving anything or creating a headline. It was simply a moment where laughter took over, and that was enough. As viewers continued reacting, the story itself almost became secondary to the atmosphere it created. The real memory was no longer only about what had happened in the story. It became about how Tian Xiwei told it, how she reacted while remembering it, and how fans responded together. That is how seemingly small livestream moments become part of a celebrity's larger collection of memorable interactions. A dramatic event might dominate headlines for a day, but a genuine laugh can remain in someone's memory for much longer because it feels personal. It gives fans something emotionally uncomplicated to hold on to. There is something especially powerful about laughter that comes after a moment of anticipation. When viewers are waiting to discover why a story is funny, they become emotionally invested in the outcome. Then, when the unexpected detail arrives, the release of that tension produces a stronger reaction. Tian Xiwei's expressive storytelling naturally created that rhythm. The story seemed to pull viewers closer, encouraging them to pay attention to every detail, and then the humor arrived through the situation itself and her reaction to it. The result was not simply a funny anecdote. It was a small performance of personality, delivered without the feeling of a performance at all. And perhaps the most memorable part was the sense that the laughter was shared rather than directed. Tian Xiwei was not laughing at her fans, and the fans were not simply laughing at her. They were laughing with her. That distinction matters. Shared laughter creates warmth because everyone becomes part of the same emotional moment. The screen stops feeling like a barrier and begins to feel like a meeting place. For a celebrity with a large following, those moments can be particularly meaningful because they create an atmosphere of familiarity despite the enormous distance between public figure and viewer. The story also demonstrated why fans often become attached not only to a celebrity's work but to their personality. Performances may introduce someone to an audience, but spontaneous interactions can deepen that connection. When viewers see an actor or entertainer laughing naturally, remembering something funny, or reacting in an unguarded way, they gain another dimension of the person they admire. Tian Xiwei's livestream moment added exactly that kind of dimension. It was playful without being forced, emotional without becoming heavy, and entertaining without needing elaborate production. By the time the laughter settled, the moment had already achieved something that many highly produced appearances struggle to create: genuine emotional connection. The livestream did not need a dramatic revelation to become memorable. It only needed Tian Xiwei to share a funny memory in a way that allowed viewers to experience the humor alongside her. The atmosphere, the reactions, the anticipation, and the warmth all combined into a moment that felt surprisingly intimate in its simplicity. And that may be the reason fans found themselves smiling long after the story was over. Because when people look back on moments like this, they rarely remember every single word. They remember the feeling. They remember the expression that made them laugh. They remember the unexpected turn in the story. They remember the sense that, for a brief moment, everything became lighter. Tian Xiwei's funny livestream story created exactly that kind of memory. It reminded viewers that entertainment does not always need spectacle. Sometimes all it takes is a person, a memory, a little spontaneity, and a willingness to laugh at the absurdity of everyday life. And somewhere in that laughter was the real reason the moment resonated so strongly. It showed Tian Xiwei not simply as a performer under bright lights, but as someone capable of turning an ordinary memory into a shared experience. The story became memorable because her personality carried it, and the laughter became meaningful because fans experienced it together. Long after the livestream moved on to other conversations, that particular moment could remain as one of those delightful memories people return to whenever they need a smile. It was unexpected, lighthearted, and wonderfully human, proving once again that sometimes the smallest moments can create the biggest emotional impact.